Guys, you know I always talk about this, and I've been talking about it for a while, and how Microsoft's Xbox platform is coming to an end as we know it, as we used to know it, as the golden age and the peak and the height of the Xbox platform was indeed the Xbox 360, and you don't know how good you have it until it's gone, and that's why now you see a lot of Xbox 360 consoles going on sale on eBay for a whole bundle, a load of cash, and rightfully so, because now more than ever, it is much easier to modify your Xbox 360 and run homebrew and run a whole bunch of other games and backwards compatibility. It's really, really, really nice right now. And, the same goes for the first generation Xbox from 2001. And if you see like the resurgence of how these consoles are really, really making a massive comeback, and people are going back to playing older games because those older games have more soul, have more life to it, have more meaning. And, I always said that consoles are only worth their exclusives, and exclusives for me, I think, are a good thing. Because if not, then either you piss or you get off the pot. So in other words, we don't need, and we don't live in a world where we need a piece of plastic, a low grade PC to sell you an experience. In other words, you can have the same experience, if not a far superior experience on PC. And when you look at the consoles today, the PS5 and whatever X and S, I guess, on the Xbox platform, I haven't bought an Xbox since the Xbox 360. And I still have my PS3 fat original 80 gig fat boy hooked up to the flat screen because I'm playing the God of War series right now. Physical that I own, that I cherish, that I actually bought on eBay because I never played that franchise. But I digress. Going back to what I said, these modern day consoles, and I'm not including the Nintendo Switch 2, but these modern day consoles are pretty much low to maybe mid-end PCs, and for the price that you're paying now. And, no wonder that everything that Microsoft has released, and I did a video a couple videos back talking about how Microsoft was never in the hardware business. They were always in the software business. They were always a software company, and it wasn't until the very late 90s and early 2000s when the internal Xbox team convinced Bill Gates to get into the gaming business because Sony was just clearing up everything, and they had virtually no competition. And it was just Sony and Nintendo at that point. And that's why we have Microsoft entered the arena in 2001 with the original Xbox, and the exclusives on that thing were insane. Nothing compared to the PS2. The PS2 still remains the king daddy of all consoles, right? And I've tweeted out a couple of videos last week about the 2000 midnight release of, and I mean the year 2000 of the PS2, and it was just insane, dude. And I'm thinking, I can't believe this was 25 years ago. How times have changed. And then I saw the original Xbox 360 midnight release with Adam Sessler and everybody from G4, and it was a whole big thing in 2005. Just 20 years ago. And when you look at how time has passed, and 20 years ago wasn't really a long time if you think about it, but I mean, we're talking about 2 decades. How has the industry changed? And then you have an article like this already running damage control, right? Because Microsoft had to come out and say, look, no, these are unsubstantiated rumors. But then you look at this article and it says, no, Xbox next-gen console hardware plans are not canceled. For now, Microsoft responds, right? And I'm going to link this article in the description. But you guys tell me what you think that's happening with the Xbox platform. And this isn't 20 years ago with the launch of the Xbox 360. This isn't 25 years ago with the launch of the PS2. This is now 2025. And almost everybody and their mom has high-end, high-speed internet in their homes. And when you look at how Microsoft is now planning around this whole Microsoft Xbox everywhere, the Xbox experience everywhere, on your tablet, on your phone, on your laptop, on your TV, on your console. Now we're starting to get the big picture, and it's like little leaks like this that are painting the overall picture of where this company is going. And the future is not hardware for any company for that matter, but in terms of gaming, for Microsoft, it is not hardware. It is not a console. And yes, they might, for example, release a next generation Xbox following the X and S. So, for example, 28 or 27 or 28, whenever that comes out, because they're going to have to respond to Sony's PS6. They have to, right? But then eventually, I would say that Sony will remain victor in this faux console war that no longer exists. And then Microsoft will slowly but surely exit their hardware business just like Sega did, and just remain owning all of the publishing rights, owning all of the studios, all of the developers, all of the publishers, pretty much, of their vast library of titles, which are, sad to say, no longer first party. And now we're seeing everything on other platforms, and how the mighty have fallen when we're seeing now Halo and Gears of War on other platforms. And it's like, this was unthinkable 20 years ago. This was unthinkable back in the Sega versus Nintendo days. Could you imagine, like right after the downfall of Sega, you're seeing their first party titles on Nintendo hardware? That will never happen, right? I mean, I'm talking about way back then, like 25, almost 30 years ago. Now, I could be out of the loop about Gears of War appearing on the PS5. I think that was a thing, or maybe not. Maybe I'm getting the titles wrong. But we're seeing a shift in the gaming industry to where exclusives no longer hold weight, to where a console, a piece of plastic, no longer hold weight. And I got to tell you, the one who is really, really coming out on top in all of this is AMD. AMD is actually powering everything, with the exception of the Switch 2. I believe that is the NVIDIA Tegra Chip 2 from NVIDIA that is powering that little machine. And it turns out that like the performance is really not what we thought it was. This is technology from like 4 years ago being sold to you in 2025. And Valve's Steam Deck is still a powerhouse in the world of handheld. And the backwards compatibility on that thing, of course I'm getting ahead of myself, because I was thinking about handhelds, because the whole ROG Ally, the partnership with ROG, with ROG, Republic of Gamers, Asus, and Microsoft. It's just basically a Xbox branded handheld, which is really not theirs. And so we're seeing how slowly but surely Microsoft is diluting the brand of the Xbox, and slowly moving away from hardware, because it's very expensive. Hardware becomes very expensive, and you don't see a return on investment till after maybe the 3-year mark. And I guarantee you that with the rise of AI and the layoffs, the incredible amount of layoffs that are happening because of AI too, and that's a whole nother subject and a whole nother video in and of itself, but we're never going back to the way things are. And this is why now we're seeing a massive resurgence in people going and collecting older hardware and older physical games, because it turns out like you own nothing. And you own nothing, and you'll be happy, and it's all ones and zeros. I mean, it is what it is, guys. This is where we're going. And so now we're having a bunch of puff pieces online, that are connected financially through AdSense, right? Of defending the Microsoft and defending the Xbox platform as we know it for as long as we have it. But it doesn't mean that Xbox is going away. It just means that it's going to be transforming into something that we don't know what it is yet. And a lot of it is cloud gaming. A lot of it is in conjunction, in partnership, like I said before, with these manufacturers of panels, Sony's, Philips, Samsung. I'm talking about the big screen flat TVs, to where now they're becoming very powerful, and AMD and others are powering these smart TVs to the point where they can handle what was once considered pretty much PS1, PS2 power in terms of graphics output. Maybe PS3 power in terms of graphics output. You have to understand the PS3 is now more than 20 years old. And so, CPUs have gotten very extremely powerful. And so my prediction, my hypothesis is that I think that, there's going to be a move to where these manufacturers of these television screens, television panels are going to be so powerful that, Microsoft and also Sony, they're going to get into the game as well, are just pretty much going to sell you a receiver or some sorts, maybe built in, or maybe whether a partnership, built into the panel, or an accessory that you either USB dongle connect to your flat screen, and it comes with proprietary Sony and or Xbox controller, licensed, official, right? And you're basically logging into your account, to your Microsoft account, to your Sony account, and you're playing over the air, my friends. You're playing in a cloud somewhere, some server somewhere, and for a monthly subscription, because that's where the money is, and the money is no longer in hardware. And so that's where we're going, guys. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.